Hello, welcome to Exploring with Jason. This video is going to be extra special. This video is going to be dedicated for Memorial Day. And I want to present to you a video commemorating those lives that were lost in World War II, and I want to share their stories so that these men are not forgotten. Come with me as we explore 3 cemeteries, and I hope you like this special featured documentary. And if you like what you see, please share, subscribe, and hit that notification button. Without further ado, let's get on with this special Memorial Day special video. The first military figure that we're going to talk about is Sergeant Francis Lee Vile, who was killed in World War II. His story goes, Sergeant Francis Lee Vile died at the age of 20 and serving as a sergeant in the U.S. Army during World War II. He served as a antique radio manager in China, Burma, and India. He was killed in action just 2 days before his 21st birthday. And we're about to approach his grave now and to pay respect to him. And the next person we're going to pay tribute to here at Stowe Cemetery is PFC Canaris Wilcox here at Stowe Cemetery. PFC Canaris Wilcox was part of the 329th Infantry Regiment of the 8th Division. He was killed in Germany. He was killed in Germany on April 4th, 1945, and he was 23 years old. And he's buried here at Stowe Cemetery. And as we approach his grave, next gentleman that we're going to honor for this Memorial Day is Corporal Elmer J. Geyer, who was killed on the day of the invasion of D-Day, the D-Day invasion. His name is Corporal Elmer J. Geyer. Corporal Elmer James Geyer was attached to the 326th Engineer, and which was attached to the 101st Airborne Division. He was one of 2,500 service members, 2,501 service members that were killed in the D-Day invasion of France. He was killed on June 6, 1944. And we're standing and honoring the man who was part of that to liberate France and Germany from the Nazis and their atrocities. I'm at Chestnut Hill Memorial Park in Cuyahoga Falls, Ohio, and I'm standing alongside the grave of Private Henry or Harold L. Moneypenny, and he grew up here in Akron, Ohio. He attended Jackson Elementary School. He was one of 5 children to Mr. and Mrs. Hugh Moneypenny. He was a private in the U.S. Army of the 333 333rd Infantry Regiment of the 84th Rail Splitters Infantry Division. He was killed in action on January 6, 1945 in Belgium during the Battle of the Bulge. He received a Purple Heart and he's buried here at Chestnut Hill Memorial Park at Cuyahoga Falls with the rest of the Moneypenny family. So I'm kneeling beside Second Lieutenant Richard or Harold E. Wheeler, who was a bomber who served in the U.S. Air Corps and was a bomber. And his story goes, Second Lieutenant Harold E. Wheeler was born July 8, 1916, to the parents of Jacob F. Wheeler and Pearl M. Seifert in Fort Wayne, Indiana. In 1920, he and his family moved to Akron, Ohio, and grew up in the city of Akron, graduating from University of Akron. While a student at University of Akron, he was in ROTC, and part of the Cloud Hopper Flying Club and Sigma Beta Nu fraternity. He enlisted into the U.S. Air Corps and served in Panama before returning to the States in 1942. He attended officer training, and after that, and after that he was sent to India. Wheeler was killed on August 7th, 1944, when he was on a B-24J bomber, which he was a navigator, which the plane crashed 20 miles south of Nunnan, China. All the members on board the plane were killed, including Wheeler. His bomber was attached to the 10th Air Force, 7th Bombardment Group of the 9th Bombardment Squadron. This particular squadron was used to fly fuel and supplies from India over to the Himalayas to fly and to China and the United States Army Air Force Base that was located in India or in China. He is buried here in Glendale Cemetery. And I want to thank you for your service, Second Lieutenant Harold, and I want to thank you for your ultimate sacrifice. And I want to honor you along with other people this Memorial Day. next video I want to do, the next veteran or service member that was killed in World War II that I want to honor here at Glendale Cemetery. And if you look, down there was Second Lieutenant Robert Wheeler, who was killed in World War II. We're hearing another service member who was killed in World War II. His name is Walter Joab Jr. And he was killed in World War II as well. And I'll share you his story. Walter was born to the parents of Walter Henry Joab Sr. and Magda Peterson in 1923. Walter, or Walt as they called him, was in the 1st Special Service Force, which was combined with Canadian and American Commando Group, which was the same group that was the forerunners of the Green Beret, who started in the Korea War. Their nicknames were the Black Devils, or the Black Devils, where a book which was described about the group. Walter, or Walt, was killed on September 12, 1944 in southern France. He was originally buried in Rome American Cemetery in France. However, even though he is buried in Rome American Cemetery, his memorial headstone, or his memorial, is here in honor of his service and sacrifice in the family plot of the Joab family. So, Walt, thank you for your service, and I hope you have a great. Thank you for your service and your utmost sacrifice, and I hope I hope you know that you're not forgotten, and may you rest in peace. And thank you for your service and your service, and your name, it will not be forgotten. Here I'm right beside another grave that is pretty much covered up, that is forgotten about, not even mowed or anything. It's pretty much covered up. But it's a grave of Sergeant Roscoe Lindsay Lockhart. He was killed in the Philippines. And here's his story. Sergeant Roscoe Lindsay Lockhart was born to the parents of Henry Louis Lockhart and Mahala Milstead on June 1st, 1922 in Akron, Ohio. He joined the U.S. Army on October 14th, 1940. He was attached to the 145th Infantry and which was attached to the 37th Infantry Division. He was killed on February 22nd in 1945 in the Philippines. Sergeant Roscoe Lockhart, I want to thank you for your service and contribution to our country. And this Memorial Day, I want to honor you as well as other men who is buried here this Memorial Day. And share your story and let you know that you're not forgotten, that you're remembered. And I want to thank you for your contribution to making our country safe from evil. And may God bless you, and thank you for your service and contribution.
Now we're at Oakwood Cemetery to honor the men that were lost in World War II that is buried here. The first person here at Oakwood Cemetery in Cuyahoga Falls that I'll talk about is Henry, or is by the name of Harold F. Bell. And I'm standing alongside the grave of Robert P. Pitkin, who served and died in 1944 in World War II. His story goes, Robert was born on September 7, 1913 in Summit County, Ohio, in the hometown of Cuyahoga Falls, Ohio. He was a rifleman of the 48th Armored Infantry of the 7th Armored Division, Company C. He was killed in action he was wounded, but he died of his wounds on October 4th, 1944. The place of his death was Leopoldburg, or I can't pronounce it, but in Belgium. His medals included the American Campaign Medal, Army Good Conduct Medal, and others. He's buried here in Oakwood Cemetery in the veterans section of Oakwood Cemetery. Mr. Robert Pitkin, I want to thank you for your service, that you know that they're never going to be forgotten, especially this Memorial Day, and your name will live on and will never be forgotten.
also was buried right next to Robert Pitkin in Oakwood Cemetery. And he was part of the 8th Infantry, 4th Infantry Division. And he was killed on November 16th, 1944 in Brest, Germany. James Lindman. Yeah, Lindeman. Yes. I don't think he would be on that side. I think he's on this side. Because that's a newer version. That's what I'm thinking. I knew he was. I'm right beside the 2 graves, one for one of James E. Lindman and Frederick D. Skills. Frederick was a second lieutenant who flew as high as as they said, as high as the note sang or whatever. He was a former member of the Miami University's Men's Glee Club, future pilot with the Army Air Force. Frederick was quite the familiar face on Miami's campus. In fact, the Miami students even published rumors about who was taking out on dates. Without a doubt, Frederick made the most of his time in Miami. As a member of Sigma Chi, Frederick Skill had many opportunities on Miami campus. His fraternity sponsored the intramural sports like bowling, which is a Sigma C as flight, and they were quite good at. And they host public discussions, usually on political topics. Sigma Chi often held fireside groups as their chapter house, coined after the popular fireside chats led by President Franklin Roosevelt. Discussions such as what division of the armed service and their functions resolved around the idea of civic responsibility. Perhaps discussions like these ideas led Frederick toward the Army Air Force, where he was asked to fly the P-27 Thunderbolt over the Cuyahoga Falls native or where he was asked to fly the P-37 Thunderbolt over Nazi-occupied France. In any case, Cuyahoga Falls native eagerly responded to the call of duty, leaving Miami University before his own graduation. Frederick traded walks across graduation stage for soaring through the skies of France. By the summer, he was deployed to Britain with the Army Air Force. From there, he flew with the 9th Air Force Group 36 Fighter Group Squadron, 53rd Fire Squadron under the orders of Captain Richard LaRue. Skills and his squadron would perform sweeps over northern France, perform diving runs on specific targets. On July 18, 1944, Skills and his squadron were swept above the town of Dretz, France, seconds before the dive bomb began. The squadron began to take heavy flak fire, where Skills flinched and he jerked and yoked, where he pulled his P-37 out of formation. Realizing that he was out of position, Skills attempted to throw the plane back into formation. But doing so, at the act of the moment, the dive bomb began. As Skills tried to return to position, his plane skimmed the top of the flight officer Guido Filippo's plane, where Filippo's propeller shredded the bottom of the Skills fuselage. Skills lost control of the plane, crashing it just southeast of Verona, or I can't pronounce it, France. Skills' failure to stay in formation proved fatal, but despite the damage from Filippo's plane being a direct cause of the crash, the commanding officer did not write that in his report. Instead, he said that Skills was given, or it was thought that Skills was given more honorable downfall. The missing air crew reported, or the air crew report said that the plane was brought down by the enemy flak shots rather than his own plane piloting mishap. One can only imagine what this substitution was Percival guided the lasting impression still left on the 36 fighter group. Today, we're standing at another grave of another veteran who was killed in World War II. We're at the grave of second lieutenant, or better as Lieutenant second grade Thomas D. Samaras, who served in the United States Navy. His body was never recovered, but he did earn a Navy Cross. Here's his story. Second Lieutenant grade Thomas Dimitri Samaras was born to the parents of Dimitri G. Samaras and Anna P. Samaras. Thomas received a Navy Cross. I meant to say Navy Cross. He received a Navy Cross for his actions during World War II. He in the Navy Cross, the citation says, quote, Lieutenant Junior Second Grade Thomas Dimitri Samaras, United States Navy, for extraordinary heroism in the operation against the enemy while serving as a pilot of the carrier based Navy dive bombers squadron V-83 V-8-83, which was attached to USS Essex in action against the Japanese forces on April 7, 1945. While deployed over in the East China Sea, Lieutenant Junior Grade Samaras skillfully and courageously piloted his aircraft on the enemy battleship in the far of attention with the anti-aircraft, scoring direct hit with its bombs, with contributing materially to the sinking of the Japanese vessel. His outstanding courage and determination skills were at all times inspiring in keeping with the highest tradition of the U.S. Naval Service. Unfortunately, his body was never recovered, and he was killed in action on July 25th, 1945, and his plane was lost in sea. And he his family with his photo is here in his honor. And Lieutenant Second Grade Tommy, thank you for your service, sir. And I want to say you are not forgotten this Memorial Day. And I hope you can hear this. And I want to thank you for your service, your devotion to your Navy, to your to your service, to your men, and your distinction goes unnoticed. You are a hero, sir, among with other men who were killed in World War II, especially the ones that I'm talking about today in this documentary. Now I am currently at Mount Pleasant Cemetery in Akron, Ohio. Earlier, I was at Glendale Cemetery, honoring the three men, and dedicating them and sharing their stories who were killed in the line of duty during World War II. Now I'm here to share stories of men who lost their lives in World War II that are buried here in Mount Pleasant Cemetery. I'm currently standing at Sergeant Jack Edward Shelley, who served in the U.S. Marine Corps, and he was killed on June 15, 1944. Here's his story. Sergeant Jack Edward Shelley was born to the parents of Henry F. Shelley and Catherine I. Seltzer on December 9th, in 1918 in Akron, Ohio. After high school, Jack worked for the Standard Oil Company, and he volunteered for the U.S. Marines on August 1st, 1941. He rose the rank of Sergeant of Company A, 2nd Marine Battalion. Company A, 2nd Marine Battalion, which was attached to the 2nd Marine Division. Shelley's regiment captured Tulagi Island on August of 1942, while the main force of the Marines landed at Guadalcanal. Later, they moved to join the fight at Guadalcanal. After they took part of the invasion of Tarawa in April 1943, Shelley's company went with the first Marines, which landed on Saipan on June 15, 1944, where he would be killed by aircraft machine gun fire, which was probably friendly fire by the American planes. He is buried here in Mount Pleasant Cemetery. Sergeant Jack Edward Shelley, I want to thank you for your service, and I want to tell you that you're not forgotten on this Memorial Day. Your utmost sacrifice will never be forgotten. You will always be remembered. And I want to thank you for your service and your utmost gratitude and sacrifice. Hi, this is Exploring with Jason. And I hope you're enjoying this video that I present to you on this Memorial Day. In this video is a bonus scene where I talk about an individual who was killed in World War II. That is connected to me and my family. I knew about him when through my family and the stories of through my family. He was killed on April 28, 1944. He was killed in a tragic mishap, confusion event that occurred on April 27th and April 28th of 1944. The code name or the rehearsal was called Operation Tiger. To get the gist of and the story behind this Operation Tiger, there's a video from BBC, which is a British YouTube or British channel. They do a documentary on this event. And it is done, and I highly recommend you go see it. It's on YouTube, you can find it. All you have to do is say Operation Tiger, and it should pop up. But I highly recommend that video from their channel due to the fact it goes into very detailed before, during, after, and so forth. And not only that, it gives a full account from multiple perspectives. I'm not talking about service members or the American perspective. I'm talking about every single perspective I'm talking about they interviewed a German soldier who was on the U-boat. They interviewed I think from Canada or something. They interviewed other people, and they also interviewed an American, a family member, too, of a service member that was killed in in this tragic event. You will not get it anywhere else but that of how detailed the mishap, there's a whole variety of things went on, and before, during, after, what led up to it. One of the service members, like I said, that was killed in this tragic event was my great uncle, Seaman Second Class, Ford Kelly. He was one of the many hundreds, not just 100, 200, not even 300, almost 1,000 service members perished during this tragic event. And that goes for my great uncle, Ford Kelly. I'd like to read 3 distinct articles that I've kept that my family members had that gave the information to me that I've had ever since I was growing up. The first article I want to read to you dates back to 1984. It's called D-Day, Darkest Hours 5 weeks before. And it's written by Mark S. Smith, who was part of the Associated Press. He writes, as a 40th anniversary of D-Day draws near, the English have been recalling the invasion's darkest secret, the night German torpedo boats slipped into the fog and shrouded on the English Channel coast, and torpedoed 3 landing craft practice for the Normandy assault. At least 749 American GIs were killed, more than the number who have died 5 weeks later in the real invasion, when their unit stormed the shore of Utah. So the distress was the attack that General Dwight D. Eisenhower, the Allied commander, ordered it to be kept secret. The victims were buried in a mass grave, and with their families did not learn the truth until years after the war. It was just midnight, or it was just past midnight on April 28, 1944, when a convoy of landing craft chugged slowly into Nine Bay on on the Devon coast. It was just past midnight. Oh. On board were soldiers of the 4th Division, mostly engineers, shifting heavy backpacks, peering into the pre-dawn mist. The target slapped the sand. Which had been chosen for its resemblance to Utah Beach. On board were about 1:30 a.m. two flushly, I can't pronounce, of the German E-boats as they torpedo the boats were known charged into the bay and loosed a string of torpedoes at the convoy. As the English E-boats turned and fled, there was flash of boom and shouts. 3 landing crafts were hit. 2 were sunk. At least 1,000 yards of astern of U.S. or astern of us, you can see a jeep flying through the air, recalls Manny Rubin, a U.S. Navy signalman on one of the ships. You cannot see black dots, or you could see black dots that we knew were men, just on the fringe of it. It was just like hell, like every sailor's nightmare. Those who were killed in the explosion drowned under the weight of their equipment or burned to death as the flames of gasoline poured into the water. As it got lighter, we saw the most horrible sight, Rubin said. As far as you can see, out into the sea, there were men floating, dead bodies. U.S. Army recorded to show at least 749 men were lost. But the researchers who filed them said that they may be incomplete. Gordon Harrison, in his 1951 official Army history of D-Day, a cross-channel attack, said that Exercise Tiger fiasco was partially crucial in view of general shortage of landing craft. General Eisenhower reported, combined chief of staff, that the sinking reduced the LST, which is landing craft, surplus to nothing. But because of the secrecy so strict that the survivors were held in a isolation camp, the Germans did not know how deadly they've been. Hans Schrin, one of the Evo commanders, learned only this year when the British televised a complete researching a documentary contacted him. He declined to be interviewed. But he wrote, "To my utter surprise, I have learned now from you about 750 lives were lost that night in Lion Bay. Please allow me to say I feel very sad about the heavy losses." In the documentary, Sands of the Silence, Silence, which aired on Britain's independent television network, called Exercise Tiger, an astounding catalog of incomplete or incompetence and misunderstanding. The exercise was conducted with live ammunition. One ammo truck exploded, killing 50 GIs. 2 young schoolboys were killed when they found a grenade pulled in the pin. The night of the landing, an escort destroyer collided with the assault ship, which had to return to port. The operation left with just one escort. The British corvette HMS Azalea, meanwhile, supplies went astray, and that were terrible, terrific power-ups around the beach. When the documentary was screened for local residents in Devon, one of them, Dorothy seeking of Stoke Fleming near Dartmouth, disclosed one of the grisliest aspects of London Daily Mail called D-Day Darkest Secret. She wrote to a local newspaper saying she recalled seeing dozens of GIs' bodies piled into mass graves in about 2 miles from her. She recalled seeing dozens of GIs' bodies piled into a mass grave in a field about 2 miles away from her home. Mrs. Seekins, now 64. Now, let me remind you again, this is all 1984, so you have to take it with a grain of salt. She may be alive still, she may not be. But I'm just reading from the article of what happened, what was written in 84. Mrs. Seeking, now 64, was 23 that spring and was delivering bread, donuts to the soldiers stationed near her home. She was traveling on a special pass and was given a lift by a soldier in an army truck. Soon after she was picked up, she was pulled to the roadside and said he had been making a delivery. I thought it was ammunition or something, she recalled. Not until I got out of the truck and went around the back did I see all of these dead men laying on top of one another in the back of the truck, she told Associated Press. Across the road, a group of soldiers was digging in a field, and I could see the earth mounted up in the field. They came out and they carried these men into the field. Asked about Mrs. Seeking, account of a account a spokeswoman at the U.S. Army Military History Institute. Carlisle, I don't know his first name, but Carlisle is, I think it is his last name. Barracks in Pennsylvania confirmed its accuracy. About half of the victims were never recovered, and the remains were buried the next day in a field near Devon, said the spokeswoman who asked not to be identified. After the war, they were exhumed and moved to other cemeteries in accordance with the wishes of their next kin. On the beach near Plymouth, an obelisk has been erected in its plaque thanks to the people of South Devon for their patience and sacrifice during the preparation for the D-Day landings. But it made no mention of the disaster that the local people spoke of as the invasion darkest hours. The next article, I'm not sure when I would assume this was published back in the 80s, I would assume. But it's called Honored at Last. World War II defeat to finally get memorial. And this was done by the news Cox News Service. It says for 18 years, local innkeeper Ken Small has been haunted by the ghost of 749 American soldiers who died in one of the forgotten tragedies of World War II. Walking the windswept beaches along the scenic but lonely South Devon coast, he often would gaze into the water, conjuring images of what came to be called the Night of the bloody tiger. Wondering why it had been under the rug of history. I often sense there was a feeling in America, at least on the part of the government, not to memorialize its defeat or setbacks. Small says, I just wanted to honor these men. Due in large part of Small's effort, the United States on November 15th will officially commemorate for the first time the Americans killed here 42 years ago. The ceremony will be held along the beaches of Selected Sand. For Small, it will be the culmination of a crusade that has taken him to Washington and the Pentagon, and cost him $25,000 out of his own pocket. The story of their deaths can finally be told. Small. On the night of April 27, 1944, more than 30,000 soldiers conducted a mock assault on Selected Sand. A croissant-shaped English Channel beach strip, not far from Plymouth, on the southern coast of England. The exercise code name Operation Tiger was a dry run for the D-Day landings at Normandy 6 weeks later. Selected Sand was chosen because of its geography and resemblance of the beach which the Americans were to encounter at Utah Beach on the coast of France. But the combination of poor planning, misjudgment, and bad luck, the exercise was seriously wrong. German U-boats torpedoed 3 of the landing crafts, sinking 2 of them. In the panic and confusion, American GIs, many exercising for their first taste of combat, opened fire on their own boats, believing that they were shooting at Germans and other unwarned. They had been given ammunition, thought the explosion was, and flames around them were part of the drill. When dawn broke, hundreds of soldiers were found floating upside down in the water. Lacking proper instructions, they had incorrectly placed their life vests around their waist. around their waist instead around their arm or instead of under their arm. The weight of their gears had forced their head down into the water, and they drowned. The men formed the 4th Infantry Division, the 279th Combat Engineer, and the 70th Tank Battalion of the U.S. Army. Operation Tiger had resulted in one of the single largest loss of Americans' life in the war since Pearl Harbor. The 749 killed was more than 4 times the 179 GIs who died on the Utah beach. on D-Day 6 weeks later. In the secrecy surrounding D-Day, the D-Day preparation, the flash of success as the Allies strove to liberate Paris in the months ahead, the men killed there were quickly forgotten. The biggest tragedy was that it was decided to forget them, Small said. Details of the disaster went unreported in the United States for more than 3 decades, and to this day, few Americans have heard about it. Even to the present day, not a lot of Americans know about this disaster. Details of the disaster went unreported. Some bodies were never found, and a local resident circulated that the stories that they are buried in an unmarked mass grave in a nearby field. Defense Secretary William Taft and the Capitol at the Capitol with Representative Beverly Byron, Maryland, and a letter from Charles Price, the U.S. Ambassador of Britain. Byron, wait a minute, I'm skipping. Okay. Dr. Ralph Green, a paleontologist of Chicago, was stationed nearby Dorset with the U.S. Army Medical Corps. In 1944, and treated the victims of Operation Tiger. He said that, he and other doctors and nurses on the duty that day were never told the cause of the injury and were ordered to maintain secrecy under the threat of court-martial. Years later, he set out to find out what happened. He published his findings on February of 1985 in American Heritage magazine, quoting, When most of the remaining secrets of World War II were lifted in 1974, through the Freedom of Information Act, the entire story of Operation Tiger became available. End quote. He also wrote, or Green also wrote, saying, quote, nobody bothered to report it, end quote. In January, Congress has passed a resolution calling for recognition of the men, and on November 15th, U.S. officials will dedicate a plaque on Shasta Sand commemorating them. The walls of Smalls end their testimony to his effort. There was a signed photograph of him at the Pentagon with the Deputy Department of Defense Secretary William Taft, and the Capitol with Representative Beverly Byron of Maryland, and a letter from Charles Price, the ambassador of Britain, or U.S. ambassador of Britain. Byron, a member of the Armed Service Committee, whose father was a naval aide to General Dwight D. Eisenhower, and who witnessed Operation Tiger, sponsored the resolution calling for a memorial. Small campaign began in 1969 as he walked the beaches Sorry guys, I didn't know that the people were going to be mowing, so I moved out here. I moved back into my buddy's house, so I'm spending some time here, and that's why you see me here instead of my own apartment. But I want to finish the story about our Operation Tiger and what this article was saying. So, where were we? Small's campaign began in 1969 as he walked the beaches one day following a severe winter storm. One time policemen whose only memories of the war are of hiding in the air raid shelter with his family, which had moved to Devon from northern England that year. all the shingles and stones have been washed away from the beach, and I started finding cartridges or cartridge shells, shrapnel, U.S. Army insignia of our men fighting and signet rings, he recalled. He was uncovering the remnants of Operation Tiger. 3 years later, a local fisherman told him about a submerged tank a mile offshore on which fishing travelers regularly snag their nets. His curiosity arose. Small hired a diving team to investigate. On the channel floor, 60 feet beneath the surface, the divers found an American Mark V Sherman tank. A gun facing the shore. The amphibious tank sat there since 1944 when it sank during Operation Tiger. A small later learned that its 5-man crew survived. Small decided to raise the tank, but first, he had to settle the operation ownership. The Pentagon said that it was still U.S. property, but agreed to sell it to Small for $50. And in 1974, he became the owner of the World War II Sherman tank, sitting on the front floor of the English Channel. It took 10 years, but brought the tank to the surface. On May 31st, 1984, in time for the 40th anniversary of D-Day. On June 6th, he recorded the event on videotape, which willingly shows to visitors. The raining of the tank created a minor stir among the local media, but it was lost in attention given to the anniversary commemoration that took place on the Normandy beaches. And that was that article. Now, this one, I'm going to read. I'm going to read a few here that I got of my great uncle. This one is from the Gazette. Again, not sure what date this was dated, but it's written in the Gazette, but it's written to my great aunt, which is my grandpa, who I featured on a previous video. My great aunt is the sister of my grandfather, who who I featured in the previous video. It says, Sam Rhodes tells of Fort Kelly's burial place. A small art. Mrs. Kedita Smith, she was married to Kedita, which is my great uncle. Which is her husband. Received the following letter from Brother Sam Rhodes. He wrote, Dear Helen and family, no doubt you'll be surprised to hear from me so soon. Since here I wrote you just a few days ago. Since last I wrote you, I've had a past. I had a past visited Fort Kelly's grave. When you see his folks, assure that he is buried in one of the most beautiful cemeteries in England. I was surprised that when I got there, as I had pictured to find something different. I'm sure that Forest Lawn Cemetery in California couldn't surpass as one as far as natural beauty is concerned. When we entered it, it made me think of a park more than a cemetery because of the pine trees, rose bushes, hedges and flowers. The entrance was only a few yards from the the entrance was only a few yards from the station. So we visited the part where the civilians were buried. The military personnel is buried in a section apart from the civilian section. And the military section is divided into two parts. The Free Protestant and the Catholics. Also, they have men buried there from the last war, and their graves are marked with concrete crosses with their names and state. And some were buried as unknown soldiers. Each foreign country are buried in a group by itself. There are, or these are the countries that I noticed there: England, Canada, Turkey, and Poland. The men that died in this war are separated from the rest of the cemetery by a thick row of trees and hedges, and we entered the new part of by a large arch. The men are buried according to the fate that they died, or fate they died. You've seen the pictures of the white crosses that are used as marked so you have an idea what it looked like. The records of all that are there is kept in the office. So the records there is kept in the office, so that we're going to look around and we asked for many information. I'm almost sure that he died in April or May. Well, he died April 8th or April 28th, 1944. So we talked to a pilot that had died in April. Or we talked to a or we walked to a plot that had died in April and found Forest Green. Without any trouble. One of the information tags is on the on it along with his name printed on there. In the following manner, I took a couple of pictures of the grave, and one with me standing beside the grave.
Stockpole and stuff? Stockpole and stuff is in there? Stockpole and stuff?
I also took pictures of the chapel, and I must say something about this building. It is a nice large building with the inscription which is carved in the stone building. I didn't jot down, I did not jot it down. But I do believe it says, quote, the sun always shines on them. And I got a picture of the actress. Yeah, I got a picture, or I got a picture of the actress of to the cemetery with his name. I was guarded as to what pictures I took and snapped. Those that would be past censor. These were this was all beautiful spot and away from the noise of the battle. I'll send you the pictures when I get them finished. And let me know when you get to talk to any other of the forest folks. Kindest regard, Samuel. So there's other article that talks about Compton man is buried in English Cemetery. Compton, Illinois, if you want to know. June 22nd, Mr. and Mrs. Ed Kelly and Mrs. Mary Kelly, which is his wife, of Compton, had received a notification from the government that their son and husband, Ford Kelly, 27, of the U.S. Navy, who was reported killed in action several weeks ago, has been given a military burial in an English cemetery, and that following the close of the war, his remains will be returned to the States for his home city. As requested by his family, Ford Kelly and the brothers of Lewis Kelly, circuit clerk of Union County, Illinois. That was the story about my uncle. So I hope you like what you see and hear. I hope you like this video, this long video that I'm doing for Memorial Day. And I hope you all have a blessed Memorial Day. And I look forward to see. Be sure you give thanks to every single veteran and dedicate your time in visiting our unsung heroes who were killed in wars throughout the years. And I hope you enjoyed this special feature. May God bless you, and I hope you have a wonderful day, and I look forward to seeing you on the next adventure.